Welcome everyone to On the Couch with CoachKish. I can't even remember my name today. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited because tonight is the start of this amazing journey into love styles. And first up tonight, we're going to talk about polyamory. So I know a lot of you are not familiar with exactly what that means. So my wonderful guests are going to tell us a little more about themselves, and we're going to talk about what polyamory is. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below, and we will definitely be answering questions tonight. I would like to you guys to welcome back Karen. Hello,
Hi. Hi.
how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's a little cold in New York still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not ready for it. It is today, I think it was 82 degrees when I went outside here in the
Okay.
city.
Yes. Thank you.
I was poolside earlier. And also with us tonight, we have Mr. Will the Third. Hello, Will.
Hello, hello. Hi, how is everybody?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good,
Welcome.
good. Thank you.
So we're going to just jump right in because I'm busting with the scenes here. Karen, could you tell everyone what exactly is polyamory?
Good question. Um, Polyamorous, a lot of different, but I guess you can say the easiest definition would be ethical non-monogamy, meaning not a one-on-one relationship, not a one man, one woman relationship necessarily, but the ability to have several relationships at one time. Ethically, meaning openly, with all partners aware of each other. And that's it for me. It's non monogamy ethically.
So I want to say that that sounds like a lot of work. So I want to make sure I'm clear. So what you're saying is to be in a polyamorous relationship, you as well as your partners are all aware that you are not exclusively dating one another. You're seeing, let's say, this one person, but maybe another two, three, four, 10 other people at the same time.
Yes, pretty much it. That's
And
pretty much it.
everybody involved is aware and familiar with all the other partners kind of in the game. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been polyamorous? Or are you polyamorous?
I think I am. Sometimes more
Think
than
you
others.
are. Okay.
But monogamy has never seemed normal to me. And that's going back to my 20s. I just felt that in a monogamous relationship, the expectation is that the one partner is everything to the other partner. And I've never believed that anyone should be everything to that other partner, and that it leads to a lot of expectations and in some ways disappointment when that partner can't be everything that you need, which is usually the reason why people step out of their relationships, is because one person is not fulfilling all their needs. So why not have more than one person to balance or to complete you, if that's what you need? So I never quite understood monogamy. So considering the fact that I'm 52 now,
Hmm.
I've had this philosophy for about a good 25 to 30 years. Now, mind you, I have been in I have been in monogamous relationships
Hmm.
where it was just me and another person.
Hmm.
And it was okay, but it was always, there was always a reason or looking for more, or, wandering eye, if you want to say, or, um, just looking for something else, or something that you were missing. And there were times when I was not ethical, meaning I did not openly seek out a relationship, other relationships, but I had other relationships going on at the same time. But I like the ethics part of it. I like the openness and the disclosure that's required. And it's not an easy thing, but it can be done.
Okay. So here's where some of the listeners who have sent questions ahead, some of the things that they asked. How does it not become confusing as far as your feelings are concerned? Like, how do you believe you can actually fall in love with more than one person at a time and equally kind of distribute the love? Like, I'm not necessarily talking about sex, but I mean emotionally, can you truly take care the emotional needs of multiple people?
I believe so, because different people require different things. So there might be one person in your life who is maybe not so needy emotionally and or doesn't require as much time as another. So you kind of, set up the deal, if you want to call it that, as to what each person needs and what you're able to provide. Polyamory requires a lot of honesty. I find that people who are polyamorous, who love polyamorously, are highly evolved with their feelings. They talk about their feelings a lot. They disseminate their feelings a lot to provide what they have to provide to their other partners. So I think it is possible. It is a lot of work. It's not easy, but I think it is definitely possible. And again, I think it all depends on the needs of each person.
Well, for me, the challenge that I find in it is basically that I don't know how it would be possible to give the same amount of feeling in love. And I guess I get what you're saying, that everybody doesn't need the same things at the same time. But it
Right.
just seems to me that bringing Will back into the conversation, I see he dropped off for a minute. Will, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hi, Will. Can you hear us?
I don't think he can hear us. But we'll keep talking until he's having some technical difficulties. I'm sure it'll work itself out in a minute. But my concern would be that somebody would need me in a way that I'm not able to be there because I'm trying to split my time between these two or three people. Like, what do? You pick a night. So Tuesday nights belong to Fred, and then Wednesday belongs to George. So what if on Tuesday, George says, well, I need you, but it's not his day?
But
Then
you
what?
ask Fred. Then you ask Fred if it's okay if you can tend to George.
Oh my God. Will, can you hear us? Are you there now?
He's there. He just can't hear.
You can't hear us. Okay. I don't know if he can even see us.
I don't think so.
I don't think he can even see us. So that's where, for me, where the greatest part of the challenge comes in, because even with being a mom and having two kids, you have to take care of the needs of your children, and sometimes that in and of itself becomes challenging. And I guess, with that in mind, you don't love one child more or less than the other child, but sometimes it can be challenging even to balance two kids, to balance so many different relationships and so many different personalities.
But remember also that these people that you're dating might also be dating somebody else.
So they're not ever solely your responsibility, basically.
Probably sometimes not. It depends. Like I said, it's not an easy thing to do. And coming from a total monogamous standpoint, it's always going to be a challenge. But as with anything else, if this is how you want to live, if this is how you want to love, then you make the time for it. Just like the example that you were giving in terms of your children, you know that, you know, sometimes both your kids may be going through crises at one time, but you make the time to take care of each and every one of them. Anything that you want to do, you can do it. You just make the time. You know, there are people who are in, you know, local relationships and long distance relationships. So they video chat, they talk on the phone, they schedule dates, you know, to provide the need. They text all day, you know, whereas with the local one, they know they're going to see them more often. So all these things, we'll just send a message saying he can't get back in.
Okay. So here's my question then. Is it a myth that polyamory is basically orgies and threesomes? Is that totally a myth?
Total myth. There are different configurations of relationships in polyamory. So, you know, some people may never have threesomes. You know, some people are solely they identify as solo polyamorous. So, for instance, I'm single and I could date two different people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Hello.
Hi, Will. Can you see us? No.
Can you see us, Will? No, he can't. Okay.
Okay.
So
You know,
what does solo polyamory, because that sounds like an oxymoron. What does solo polyamory mean? What does that
solo
mean?
means that you're not attached to one partner. You don't have a nested partner, or nested means like you're living with somebody, or, you know, you're married or whatever, but you date different, you know, you date differently. So when you know, in a solo polyamorous, in a solo polyamory situation, I'm dating different people, but, you know, I make the time for them. You know, they know I'm dating other people. They may never know who I'm dating, but they do know I'm dating other people. So I see a question came back. So am I in love equally with all the people you date? No, I'm not. Doesn't mean that I'm in love necessarily. I may be in love with one person and I may be dating somebody else that I really enjoy being with, but that doesn't mean that I'm in love with that person.
Well, does that, okay, so if you are someone who doesn't believe in monogamous relationships, like that doesn't, not necessarily if you don't believe in it, but it doesn't work for you naturally, then what would happen if you met someone who was monogamous and wanted to date you? Could you, do you feel that you could give up your polyamorous love style for a monogamous love style?
At this stage that I'm trying to live, you know, as authentically as I can, you know, that person would have to really be able to knock my socks off in every single way. I'm not saying that I'm totally against it. It could happen, but I like knowing that I have, you know, I would prefer knowing that, I would be open with the person and say, this is something new for me. And this is, you know, but I can do it. I think if I wanted to, I can do it. I wouldn't feel, but that person would have to fill a lot of my needs.
And do you feel that, because I honestly would have never imagined that women of color, people of color, would have taken to polyamory, because, you know, we always kind of thought of this as the white people thing. It was never people of color involved in, like, we've gotten cheated on. So you were like involuntarily in a polyamory.
But that's the thing is that's a big fallacy, because polyamory is actually native. It's and in different forms of it and different facets of it. That's what we came from. That's what we knew in Africa, in the West Indies. So this is actually more native to us than it is to white people. So somewhere along the line, and I have to say Christianity probably has a lot to do with it, the message got corrupted and it got twisted. Black people are the first one to say, I don't share my man, I don't share my, BI, la la la. But the thing is, maybe it would be different if you didn't think of it as you're sharing, because nobody belongs to anybody.
Okay, let me ask this question, and I want to go to Will and Chandra.
I think Chandra are here. Yeah, I think they're here.
Do we have them? Let me see if we have them now. Chandra and Will, do we have you now? Oh gosh, I don't. Maybe I don't know. I can't hear you. Can you hear them, Karen?
Now?
Put it up a little more.
All right. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Welcome.
All right. So we're here. Yes.
So please introduce yourselves, Will and Chandra. Please introduce yourselves to our viewing audience.
Hello, my name is Will. I am a 48-year-old polyamorous man. I consider myself to be a lifelong polyamorous person. I have been practicing polyamory essentially all of my dating life. Started at 14, with the exception of 15 years of our marriage, 16 years of our marriage, where we chose to practice monogamy, yeah, that's me.
And I'm Chandra. I'm 47, not that much younger than Will. I've been non-monogamous all my life. And when Will and I met, I was actually living with 3 gentlemen.
Wow.
Chandra.
So I've always kind of been out the box. I am straight. I always say that not to disrespect anybody who's pansexual, but just to make it clear, because I have had some people be offended that they tried to talk to me and then found out later that I'm straight. My sister wife is not. And so we have a very unique dynamic in that I was probably a little bit more, I don't want to say I was the first to, broach the conversation about being polyamorous, but I was the first to actually be in a relationship. Let's put it that way. So my mother passed in 2011, and I was grief-stricken that my best friend was not available and not able to be there. We had to do some finagling because the kids were here in Arizona and my mom passed in Maryland, so I had to get back there as quickly as possible. Will was trying to take care of the kids, so we needed to get somebody from back home to come take care of the kids, and then Will could then fly out. Well, in the meantime, Will says to me, who can be there to support you? Who can help you through this time? Because I was an only child, didn't have really close cousins. And I said, I have a friend that I was close with when I was younger. We've dated a couple of times. Are you okay with him coming by? And he said, sure, no problem. Well, as soon as I called this individual, he tells me on the phone, I'm glad you called because I still love you. And I said, what?
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. I had been with for a very, very long time. And at that point, 16 years in, I never had even thought about the possibility of stepping back to that type of lifestyle. So Will appears in Maryland, and he looks at the two of us and he goes, you guys are still in love. And I don't mean in a romantic sense necessarily, but I can see that there's some unrequited, you guys didn't quite work out all the glitches before type of love. And I'd love to give you, this person as your anniversary gift. And I was like, how do you give somebody a person? So after that happened, I wasn't sure about myself as a mother and wife. I kept trying to figure out, does that mean that I cheated on my husband? Does that mean that I am no longer best friends with my best friend? And I started doing some reading. And after I started doing reading and meditating and saying, this feels comfortable with me, Will surprised me and actually asked a friend to come back and live with us in Arizona to help me through my grief. So that's sort of the real of how it happened. I'd flirted before with guys and, had a couple of male friends, but never stepped into that realm until 2011. So long way short, that's how I kind of stepped into it. And then Will, right behind, said, are you okay with me dating other women? And I was like, of course. And I am what we call polyfidelis. I generally only date one guy outside of Will at a time. So that's me. I have the complicated side of it.
Polyfidelis. Okay. Well, wow. I asked this question of Karen, so I'm now going to position the question to Will and Chandra. This doesn't sound like a thing that people of color do. Like, do you find in the world of polyamory that there are a lot of people of color, but they're not openly polyamorous? It's kind of like a secret society of this love style that we just don't talk about it. And Chandra, you mentioned your mother's passing. I'm sorry for your loss, but I am curious as to, was your mother aware that you were polyamorous before she passed?
No, because Will, almost, she treated him like he was her actual son. So if I were to ever have bought that up while she was living, I would have been called all kinds of names. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay. And because she was as close to Will as you can get for him being a son-in-law. She probably knew I was dating, and that's really what we called it back in the day. What we're calling polyamory is dating, you know what I mean, back in the day, except that you didn't say you were in a relationship. We would say we're going with, you know. So it's different in that respect. For me, what I found is that around black communities of color, but also around just people of color, that it's so secretive because of religion. And I agree with Karen on that if they're Christian, all of a sudden there's shame and guilt attached with it. Mm-hmm. And even in, some of the support groups that we're in, I see people still feeling shame and guilt and afraid to talk about it or post it on their Facebook page. For us, we both chose to put open relationship. That's kind of the only configuration that Facebook allows. But even that was a big deal. We got family members who were like, we disown you. We don't want to have anything to do with you. You all are, against God. It's an abomination. And I said, show me.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to your question, it is part of the main issue with people of color and being open about anything sexual has to do with the church. The church has always been, since being in this country, a main fixture of the black community. And there's as was said earlier by both, a lot of shame and guilt that is attached to that. So once you get past that shame and guilt, then you're able to practice anything, but especially non-monogamy in a compassionate and in ethical manner. I think for me personally, because of the field of work I'm in, which is sexual health and working with folks with HIV and so forth, secrets manifests itself in a lot of health issues. And we continue to have secrets, hold secrets, and live secretly. And we don't take care of ourselves, and in turn, we don't take care of our partners.
We meaning people of color.
We meaning people of color. Right. We meaning people of color.
Right.
And so what people of color tend to do is I just won't get caught. I'll do it this time. I just won't get caught doing it. So you'll have people who will go out and sneak and hide because, from my purview, she takes care of me so well. From my purview, but monogamy is not natural in and of itself. So there is no relationship in the Bible, since everybody wants to go back to the Bible as the original text. There's no relationship in the Bible that is monogamous. And so monogamy in and of itself is not a natural act. We are beings that are sexual. We are beings that desire multiple unions. And so from that, we as people of color continue to practice that, but we do it in a sense of secrecy. So I can't go out and do something as a man cheating and have a condom in my pocket, because then my wife is going to find that condom in my pocket and question me. As a woman of color, I can't go out and come home smelling like a man because my spouse is going to question me. Or smelling like sex because my spouse is going to question me. And so we get caught up in a lot of lies and tales running down, of what's going on.
Real quick, I don't hate to interrupt, Will, but I'd like to add to that. For me, I primarily date Hispanic or Latin men, and I find it's the same in their culture as well. I've dated Puerto Rican men, and of course, their religion is Catholicism. Some are Santeria, some are Pentecostal, but it's all the same, where, a woman is considered a slut if she's with more than one man. And so I just wanted to bring that to the fore as well, because we're not just talking about black people, because for me, I date interracially, so interethnically, you should say. And it's funny where you look at another whole ethnic group and they're going through the same thing we're going through. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's still the shame and the sadness and, guilt and people killing themselves over it. People cheating on each other and finding that they have lifelong diseases like, herpes or HIV, and they still won't talk about it. They'll still just keep going out and cheating and passing on the disease to other people instead of having the conversation. I'm like, how hard is that conversation?
As I like to say, growing up Haitian, I'm sorry to interrupt. As I like to say, growing up Haitian, polyamory was all over. For me, I have a tribe. My son's father and his first wife is my best friend. We were friendly with the second wife. Now he's married for the third time. My son is his children's godfather. I grew up with this all around. My grandfathers had several women and several children by several women. The women all knew that my grandfather was dipping whenever he saw the other wife. They knew, and they lived with it because it was about the village and about the tribe and the family. So that's why I'm totally against the idea when black people say that polyamory is a white thing. This is part of our culture. This comes from Africa. This comes from the islands, from the Caribbean. This is not about white people. White people do it better or openly because they're white. But, and they live more openly. No, seriously. They live more openly than we do.
Well, I have friends who are polyamorous. They're a white couple. They have lived a polyamorous lifestyle for many years, but they are not out in the open with it. They don't tell everyone. Their families don't know. Their children don't know. So I will agree that based on your rearing, some things are just considered unacceptable in the eyes of some families, and other families, maybe not so much. And I agree with you that growing up, we did see a lot of, the men in our families having several different women in their lives, but you did not hear the same thing about the women in those same families. Grandma didn't have 4 or 5 men that she openly talked about. And I'm not saying that she didn't have another man. Let me be clear on that.
Right.
But that
It
wasn't
wasn't
something
talked
that
about.
was discussed, even if Grandpa did have another whole family down the street, whatever. And the women may have known each other, but in order to remain ladylike, you didn't hear about those women sleeping with other men or having other men over the children, and and all of those things. So I think the reason why for some of us growing up, it's looked like a negative thing, because it seemed like grandma was just being forced to swallow something that wasn't necessarily fair. If the playing field was fair and it was okay for grandma to do what grandpa was already doing, then maybe so many of us would not have seen it in a negative light.
But and it's also because we're looking at it from the perspective of our experience, our modern day experience as women. Remember too, I mean, maybe grandma was kind of forced to swallow it, but like you said, we didn't talk about grandma having other men, but it doesn't mean that grandma didn't have other men, or that she didn't come into the family with us. There's plenty of families that grandma came in with children, and everybody found out when they were like 50 that, they weren't brother and sister, same mama, same dad.
I agree with.
So this is part of the tribe aspect of polyamory.
So I agree with what you're saying, Karen. But what the point I'm making here is that if polyamory is from our roots, if it is this open world that, Christianity is what put a bad spin on it, then why all along it wasn't okay for grandma to say she had another dude? Like, yeah, she may have come
Christian.
Okay. I wanted Chandra, tell me what are your thoughts?
Okay. For me, all right, y'all. So for me, my grandmother married my grandfather. They divorced, but they continued dating when the opportunity availed itself. And my grandmother also had a boyfriend. So for me, it was a little different because I saw that dynamic can happen and the woman not be vilified and looked at as, trashy, hoary, whatever you want to call it. I hate those words, so I was trying to find a good word, but there is no good word for it. So for me, I saw liberation. I saw power. I saw a woman saying, I am in charge of my sexuality, and if I so choose to be with 2 men, not maybe at the same time, or, maybe they didn't interact like at the kitchen table. However, they knew about each other. We lived in a very small town. Everybody knew my grandfather, and everybody knew my grandmother's boyfriend. So all I can say is that the vision that I saw was very different. Now, my mom was very more proper. Like with the way she was raised, because she was a politician, she worked for the government, so she was kind of always worried once she became older. I'm not going to talk about her as she was younger because she was wild. But as she became older and a married woman, an older married woman, she had been, divorced and remarried and had dated multiple guys. So for me, I saw it as being a choice. It was a viable choice for me. I can have multiple guys. Now, one thing for me is I've never had 2 guys at the same time in a sexual type situation. I have had 2 guys in a relationship type of situation. And that's when I knew that I am polyamorous versus being a swinger or, some of the other titles that we might say. That's not my interest necessarily. My interest, yes, I love sex, but my interest is the relationship, the interesting things that you can find out about being with more than one man. One might be more alpha, one might be, the intellectual, one might be the jock. There are a myriad of reasons why I chose this love style.
I love the term love style. Karen brought it to my attention the other day when I said lifestyle, and she quickly corrected me. So I thank you for that, Karen, because you absolutely opened my eyes to that.
So I think that unfortunately misogyny plays a big part in why it's acceptable for men to have more than one partner and a woman not to. We have a country and a culture based on fairy tales. From the young age of childhood, we are told that there will be a princess that would lay in wait for her prince to sow his wild oats and then come find her and kiss her and wake her up. And she will live happily ever after. And he'll be, twice her age or older than her, and well experienced while she's virginal. She'll sit in the castle high tower and wait for a man who will prove himself by climbing the tower and fight off all of the dragons.
I mean, that's all of Disney right there.
That's all of Disney. But so that's what our children have been taught, and that's what we have been taught as
not
children.
Our kids.
Well, not our kids. Our kids are like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But that's what we were taught as children. That's what our parents were taught as children, and so it comes to a head of what's actually real, or what's woven into our subconscious and our psyche. I spoke to a woman earlier this week. Well, this is Monday. Last week, actually, and she is in her mid-50s, and she has been celibate for nearly 10 years, waiting on her Boaz.
I'm sorry.
And I'm like,
I wasn't laughing. I was trying to control it.
And I said, sister, say what? She said, I had such a failed marriage. Mind you, I'm still married to him. I'm just separated for the past 10 years. But I'm waiting on my Boaz to show up. So I'm going to be celibate until he shows up.
And she's such a sweetheart.
And I'm like, sister, what? No, that's not how this works.
And she's such a sweetheart too.
She's not single. So how she can set up on?
I almost want to say, here, have my husband.
I was like, I don't want it. I'm sorry. Because I can't live up to a fairy tale. Right. I'm a real person. I bleed. I cry. I pain. So I'm not a fairy tale character. And so people set up false expectations. The worst thing that you can have in any relationship is an expectation. And especially an expectation that has not been voiced. So if you don't tell me what you need, what's that?
Expectation is the root of most heartache. When you have expectations, especially expectations that are not communicated, it is a setup for heartache and disappointment. And as I was saying earlier, most people who live polyamorously, who love polyamorously, are very, very in touch with their feelings. They're very articulate about what makes sense to them so that they can make their love style work for them. Monogamy sometimes lets us be silent and not communicate properly.
Okay. I want to intervene because I don't want to demonize the idea that some people, the same way poly love works for some, monogamy works for others. I honestly, I don't think when I was in my 20s, it made sense to me to juggle things around because
you were in your whole phase.
I was in my whole phase. I needed to do my thing. And I'm glad I did it then. I needed to get that off my spirit because I did grow up, I won't say sheltered, but my grandmother and my mother had a plan, and they laid that plan out very clearly in front of me and my siblings, and we knew what was expected of us, and oftentimes what you want out of this don't have ish to do with what's about to happen. So when I had an opportunity to make my own choices and do my own thing, I kind of over-choiced. I was just greedy. I saw a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay, I'm going to try all of this. Maybe in the same day, I'm going to try a whole lot of different things. But now at 44, like, I'm okay. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with living a polyamorous love style, because looking at Chandra and Will and knowing Karen for as many years as I have known her, I know that it works. But I also know that for some people, monogamy works. But communication across the board is necessary for anything to work. I can imagine the disasters that would befall you in a polyamorous relationship if you struggled with communicating your wants and your needs and your expectations. I think that just leads to all kinds of disaster. I think some plus size women, because our show is about being, big, bad, bold, and fat and fabulous, being a plus size woman, a lot of people have expected us to feel that if your man is sleeping with somebody else, it's okay, because see, you're a fat girl and you should be okay that a man looked at you anyway. So now I have 2 plus size beautiful women with me on air tonight. And did being plus size have any impact on your decision to be polyamorous? Chandra.
Yes. I have lost 87 pounds in the past few years because I was diagnosed with diabetes in 2012. And one of the things that I heard in my first journey after I broke up with the initial boyfriend was, well, you probably can't get a man because you're fat. I have had people contact me via inbox on Facebook. Well, I wouldn't want to be with you anyway. You're too big. And I'm like, size 14 is too big? Man, what's going on? So for me, I had to come to grips with my own self-esteem and make sure that the same guys that I was going for. Now, see, here's the funny thing. I'm about to flip this on you. The same guys that I was confident enough to go for when I was bigger, I then became self-conscious about when I lost weight. So I was all of that when I was a big girl. When I was a size 22, I cut all my hair. All my hair was short like Karen. I was fly, okay? And didn't care about what people thought. I was very confident, very free. But as soon as I started losing weight, it actually made me more self-conscious, because guys would say, oh, well, you're still too big. Oh, well, that's why your husband cheated on you, because, you're a big girl. I'm going, no, he didn't cheat, first of all, because I know everything and everybody. So that's number one. And then on top of that, it started making me worry about what I look like. So Will suggested to me, and this was way, way left field of what we're talking about, but I just want to give you an example of how you can become empowered. He told me to go on an adult site that he was also on and make my own profile and see how many fans I got. By the time I was done at the end of the day, I had 200 fans. So talk about an esteem booster. And clearly in my profile said I'm polyamorous. People wanted to know, well, what does that mean? Are you open? Can I talk to your husband to make sure everything's okay? What you gotta talk to my husband to make sure everything's okay? We do that anyway if I'm gonna go further. So what you gotta talk? So patriarchy will make a woman look at herself and just dismiss everything about what's beautiful about them, or the asking permission thing. You're like, what? Does he allow certain, parts of your body to be shown? What? So all of that about, being proud of yourself and how you look as a plus size woman, I had to keep that self-esteem. I had to keep that up. You know what I mean? I had to keep bringing it up as it would go down since I've been polyamorous. I've actually had more problems since I've been polyamorous than before.
Wow. Karen, what are your thoughts?
Has it had an impact on me being polyamorous?
Yes.
It gives me more options. That's the impact it has. I've never suffered for attention at my biggest and at my thinnest. Any self-esteem issues that I had were created on my own, and not because I could not get a man, or for that fact, a woman, because women do find me attractive as well. So I could say I was greedy and I had more options, but that's not really the case. It's like I said, it just never made much sense to me, to be anything different. Like I said, I've been in monogamous relationships, but why have one when I could have two or three?
Right. So now, Will is a big guy. But I don't think that men have ever had an issue at whatever size.
My teddy bear.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I see it as there are fans and haters for everybody and everything. So there, just as there are haters for big girls and big dudes, because I got my share of haters. If you were just a little bit smaller, I can't have all that man meat laying on top of me. I get all that, and I'm like, I ain't gonna lay on top of you, girl. I'm standing in the back. But
and
I'm gonna let you know. But on the flip side, there are those that love big women and big dudes just as equally. And then there are those that dislike the skinny folk. So we always going to have, we got folks that are color conscious. We got folks that are about the hair. It don't matter. So we're always going to have those that are going to love us and those that are going to hate us. We have to find our confidence within ourselves.
In our happy place.
Regardless of the size, regardless of, and I think one thing that Karen was saying is that all my self-esteem stuff came before I was polyamorous. I got self-esteem and stuff because I was an ugly kid.
You're still kind of ugly.
I'm still kind of ugly, but I was an ugly kid. I'm just letting you know. I had a Jerry curl, braces, Coke bottle glasses, braces. I was fat. And I stuttered. Girl,
I'm serious. I met him in college. I was like, no.
She had to wait until after I graduated college, and yeah. So
he got his swag.
Until I got my swag.
I just want to say.
So we just got to understand that, we have to love and find our own self and self-esteem and swag, not rest on somebody else doing it for us.
Okay, Will, now Karen wants to speak.
Go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
It's okay, no, because I kept interrupting, but I just want to say that Will is one of the best smelling, finest dressers, charming men that you will ever have the pleasure of meeting. Ever. Hands down. So to me, and I mean, I haven't really dated big men, but it was like that was inconsequential. He's so comfortable with himself. He's just so cool that you don't even like, if you didn't like big men, you're going to like a big man now. Like, Will sets the standard. If you didn't like big men before, he sets the standard. Chandra, hats off to you.
Well, that was a famous plug for Will right there.
Thank you.
So here's a question that we received. Are you ever afraid, Chandra, that by allowing other women to share your husband, that he would find himself in love with someone else and kind of out of love with?
I never have worried about falling out of anything because he's my best friend first and foremost. And so the relationship that we have is a little different than most married couples anyway, even if we weren't polyamorous. And we went through a little rough patch this past year when he moved to DC where, he was gone and I was there. And I kept thinking, what if he doesn't care about me anymore? Or he meets somebody he loves more? He's been through that as well, thought that I loved the guy more. I've never worried about us being separated because I've always been secure in myself and I've always loved myself separately, so I've never worried about it. Sex for me is compartmentalized. It's one piece of polyamory. It's a great piece of polyamory, but it's a piece of all of the other components. And so if he were to come and tell me he was in love with somebody else, I mean, to me, isn't that what polyamory is about? That he cares about somebody else. You feel me? We have a sister wife, as I mentioned, Bella, and she's married. She lives in another state. When she comes to visit, we all spend time almost like what people would consider a closed triad, but we're not, because she has a spouse and I have a boyfriend. So when people see us, they're like, oh, he has 2 wives. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is. Like, you just see a couple or a threesome of people who have come to an agreement that I love Bella, he loves Bella, and Bella loves us. And we're able to function. I don't look at her and go, oh, you gonna take my man. That goes back to jealousy. That goes back to ownership, which I don't own him. He doesn't own me. I choose to be married. I choose to be in a relationship with him. I didn't choose to be his best friend. That happened. That was ordained, actually. My grandmother that passed, not my mom, but my grandmother that passed when I was younger, her birthday and Will's birthday is the exact same. And when she passed, so let's talk about spirituality. When she passed, I told her, bring me somebody that will watch over me and take care of me the way you have. And I had met this man multiple times in my lifetime because we lived in the same area, but not in the same town. Went to rival colleges. So he would see me at the dorms and I would be like, he got a jerry curl. So, and he was skinny. So he thought I was snooty. And kept saying, what's wrong with her?
But I loved her roommate, though.
I know, right? So when we finally did get together, I was like, I've seen you in many lifetimes. I really have. You've been my friend. You've been my protector in so many lifetimes that it doesn't matter if we have a ring on our finger or not. I know my grandmother sent you here, again, with my eyes open this time, to say, this is the guy who's going to be with me all my life. I've had guys come in and out. And Will has sometimes worried that I may fall for them. So the sweet guy sometimes worries because I'm polyfidelous. I only deal with one guy at a time. So it's just him and one other. And so I get really like engaged and involved with that person. Like I'm married to them. And he's like, yo, won't you date another guy? So,
and I think, you know, in all fairness, what that's about is I love the friendship that we have, and I only want the best for her. And so when it comes to another person, which I have no problem with her dating anybody else, but I want that person to be the best person for her. It has nothing to do with if they're engaging in sex or if their friendship is as engaging as ours. It's about making sure that person is going to do everything for her that is deserving of a person being in her life. And so that's where my fluffiness comes up.
Yeah, it's fluffy too. So let me real quick. I'll close that conversation out with the person I date now or am friends with. I guess you could say we say friends. Is a celebrity, and so it's very difficult because we have another layer of trying to be discreet, which of course polyamory is supposed to be open. So when we're out and about, people have already said we can tell you're a couple. And we have to go, no, we're just friends. When Will finally talked to him, he was like, nah, there's a mutual love there. There's a mutual respect there. I'm afraid I'm going to lose you as my best friend. That's exactly what he said. He didn't say, I'm afraid, sex is better or I'm going to lose my wife. He said, I'm going to lose my best friend. And I was like, no, you're not. It's good. So we have decided that my friend and Will, I have 2 best friends. That's what we
I don't do that. I got one best friend. She knows it. We don't share. You can have other friends. There's only one best. So let's not get crazy about that. You know what? You starting the whole thing. We're not even going to do that right now. But let me ask you this. What if, I'm going to start with Karen. If you were dating someone and there was another party they were interested in, and you didn't like that other person. So you know how you have, as women, I don't know if men ever go through this, but sometimes you come across this other woman, and for whatever reason, from the day you lay eyes on her, you know she is trouble. You don't want nothing to do with her, period, point blank. How do you function in a situation where she's now part of your world? Because
she's not part of my world, she's part of his world. But
okay.
All jokes aside, I would have to respect his feelings or her feelings for that other person. I would have to say, I would always, if asked, I would voice my opinion and leave it at that. But it's not up to me to make decisions for that person. It's not up to me to harp on the fact that I don't like this person every chance I get. And you know, like I said, I would just express whatever opinions if asked, and that would be it. I have to respect their opinion. I have to respect their feelings about that person. It's happened to me where, you know, somebody said, oh, well, I don't like him. You know, he's arrogant or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but I like him. So too bad. So sad.
Okay. So Chandra, how would this work in your...
You sit over in the corner, sipping on my tea.
You know.
So she comes in, and you know, this is somebody that Will is interested in. So you guys best friends. You've already talked about her before you even met her. And then she walks in, and automatically you're like, yeah, no. What happened to you, Chandra?
That has happened. That has happened. So here's the thing. So, and I think what Karen said is exactly what we practice. We don't do veto power. I can't say that. There's been one person that has been vetoed. It's like, hell to the hell no. It's just like hell no. But other than
and
that,
right?
Huh?
And Chandra was right, I bet.
She was right. She was very right.
My antenna went up. I like, no.
But for the most part, what we practice is, listen, I'm gonna tell you my feelings. You may or you may not like my feelings, but the relationship that you have is the relationship that you have with that person. I'm not involved in that. Now, if you come to me complaining about what's going on, I'm going to tell you.
I told you.
These my feelings. Or I'm going to tell you, I ain't got nothing to say about that. Because I can't say anything else. But one thing that I've always told her, and one thing that she's always told me, and more than just telling, showing. That's the important piece. You could tell somebody anything, but showing. The one thing that we've always shown each other through our 24 years of being together is that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you bump your head, I'm going to be here once you get back. Yeah. And we can sit and we can talk and we can cry and we can figure out a plan together. I ain't going nowhere. So even if she told me not that person, she never tells me not to be with that person, but she tells me her feelings about, you know, I'm not really feeling that person. I don't think that person is right for you.
Well, I have an extra layer because I'm an empath, and so I sometimes actually feel people. And I have to be careful because that will come across to them. And you'll see it all in my face.
You'll see it in her face.
Regardless of whether I'm trying to be nice.
But you know, when things don't work out, she's there waiting on me to come back and say, okay, all right, baby. Let's talk about it. And what did we learn? What's our takeaway from this? What did we learn with this situation? What about that person did you... Not the person, the personality of that person did you not like. Therefore, when you seek the next person and you see these traits in their personality, then you'll recognize, ooh, wait a minute, I ain't feeling that.
And see, one of the things about me as well is that I'm the quiet one in the relationship. People think because of my job, I'm an entertainment manager. So when I'm on, I'm on. I handle business deals all day. So when I'm talking to celebrities or I'm, negotiating deals or, talking about whatever, law or copyrights or whatever, people see me being this really assertive woman. With Will and I's relationship, I've always been the quiet one. So that's the other thing, is that when a lot of people meet me, they're like, oh, she doesn't like me. It's not that. I'm just very observant, and I'm peeping all of what is going on with you before I pass judgment. I try not to pass any judgment, but because I'm an empath, I'm going to feel what's going on with you anyway. So I have to almost like how you do in a movie where you want to believe that the movie is actually happening. I have to suspend disbelief. I almost have to go into a fantasy world and say, you know what? I'm not going to live real life how I feel about this person. I'll let him, experiment, get to know the person, whatever. And then I'll tell him what's up. If I don't like the person, or if I have a strong spiritual, bias against the person, then I have to speak up. Just because I don't want them in my space. That has nothing to do with really the relationship. I just don't want that negativity around me. So that's, a little different perspective too, where I've found that jealousy will rear its ugly head, and I'll see other women actually be jealous of me, which is odd. But they're more jealous of our friendship and won't be secure in their own.
Okay. Well, that's a mouthful. Lifetime. I want to. Our time is up tonight. I hate when that happens. But
we had to do it again.
This journey that we're on, ladies and gentlemen, is just to explore love styles and the things that most of us just won't talk about. Now, my guest tonight, Will and Chandra, I want to thank you for your openness and transparency. You put a lot on a sister mind. I got a lot to think about. Because I got to get you guys back on the show, because there's still some more questions that I need you guys, some input from you guys on. So I want to thank you for being here tonight with us. Karen, as always, my friend, thank you for being here. I know you will be back with us again next week, because next week we're going to explore the world of BDSM and swinging.
Hey,
Yay.
Can I come back on next week without you? I need to be back on. I need to tell y'all some things. Because some things I'm going to do in New York, I might need to talk about.
Okay. Now, see, you guys have had 24 years in the game on this, and there's so many monogamous couples who cannot say the same. So I do want to get you back on together to just talk about friendship in a marriage and how to be best friends, and like how to make it through those moments when you may not necessarily like them at the moment, but you love him all the time, and vice versa, and I know that that's a conversation that as a married couple, you guys can shed a lot of light on, on this for the rest of us. I'm working on it. I will say that for me, relationships, period, are challenging because of the way my personality is set up. I have those moments when it's like, be with me, and then leave me alone. I need a moment to myself. When my creative juices start flowing, and because I'm an artist naturally, I need my space to create. And that, that has always been hard on relationships. And exactly, that's being Pisces. So, and I know the zodiac signs also play a part in that, but being a Pisces, that definitely is
3 of us.
Great. That is definitely us. So nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you all for also tuning in with us tonight. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This interview will be on our YouTube channel shortly. So go to youtube.com/the Curve-Unplugged and hit subscribe. And Follow us on Instagram at Curve Media Group, as well as on Facebook at The Curve. Again, Will, Chandra, and Karen, thank you for being here tonight. You will be hearing from me soon. We'll be chatting in a little bit because we got to schedule another date for you guys to be on air. All right?
Awesome.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you all. Mwah.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.